Letter 18 of Letters from Hell. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Letters from Hell by Valdemar Adolph Thisted. Translated by LWJS. Letter 18. You are aware, no doubt, and have experienced it yourself, that the perfume of a flower will wake memories, sweet, happy feelings especially, but slumbering passions also obey the call. If on earth this may mean a kind of agonizing delight, here is hell. Do not imagine that there are flowers in this place. There are none here, none whatever, no growth of any kind. Even faded flowers are of the earth. O foolish men, yours is a flower-yielding world, and you will not see that, with all its trouble and sorrow, it is a blessed abode. It is the exceeding love of your Father in heaven, overflowing continually, which creates the flowers. Those millions of perfumed blossoms are the vouchers of love eternal, sparkling pearls of the cup which runneth over, given by God to man. Flowers below and stars above, happy are ye who yet walk in life, but you follow your path, heedless of flowers and heedless of stars, engrossed with your paltry self and its too often worthless concerns. O foolish men! No, there is no blossoming here, but it is part of our torment to be haunted occasionally by the far-off perfume of some flower. Imagination, of course, but all the more potent is the effect. The sweet incense has power to call up, not feelings merely, but visions on which we love to dwell. The spell of vanished enjoyment. Can you conceive it? The fullness of past delight returning upon you as by magic. Yourself being a prey to death and boundless misery. It may be a rich carnation. The fragrance even now will speak to me of her who wore it, and of her glowing eyes. I succeeded at last in being alone with her. She was divided between love and anger, I kneeling at her feet. Or a jasmine of intoxicating richness. In a summer house, overhung with the sweet-scented shrub, I found the fair-haired beauty. My heart was full, and I longed to clasp her, to be drowned in the depth of her sea-blue eyes. I was spellbound, the dreamy influence of the flowers stealing through the noontide sun. Or again, a luscious heliotrope. We were alone in the garden on a summer eve, a balmy twilight about us. I was to leave her the following morning, she being tied by ungenial wedlock. Her beauty was rich as the southern clime, her dark eyes mournful, but owning a wondrous charm. Her smile the saddest I ever knew. She plucked one of the flowers that steeped the night with fragrance and gave it to me, calling me her truest friend. But I, enraptured, would fain have bound her by another name. Such is the language of flowers to me, coming on the waves of their perfume, and the sweeter such memories, the more cruelly they torture the mind, raising passion to madness, although we are unclothed of all bodily sense, and there is no healing for the suffering soul. It is only the strong-scented flowers that move me so powerfully. Their gentler sisters, the violet and heartsease, touch me not. Yet one I may accept, an only one. It also brings pain, but I bless it. I have often been followed of late by tender wafts as from a rose. It is a particular rose, and I see it even now. A most delicate blush suffuses its petals. What color there is might be called an ethereal glow at its heart. To the cursory glance it is white, but I know better. Lily once gave me that rose. That is, I asked her for it. I do not suppose she would have thought of giving it to me of her own accord. It was at Venice one day. We were at St. Mark's, standing in front of that altar sacred to the Madonna, with its famous Byzantine paintings. We were alone. A crippled beggar had just limped away, having called down Our Lady's blessing upon us. A holy feeling stole over me, holy perhaps because the cripple had called Lily la sua sposa. She had not heard it, or had not understood it. There she stood with the rose in her hand, the blushing flower being a sweet image of herself. "Give me that rose, Lily," I said, and she handed it at once, innocently. "Kiss it first," I said. She did so, and handed it back again with the most charming of smiles. I took it, kissing it in my turn. Lily blushed slightly, but not comprehending in her simplicity what little ceremony might be meant for. The perfume of this very rose has been coming to me of late. It seems strange. Is it possible, after all, that there is a kind of spiritual bond between blessed souls and the lost ones here, immaterial as the breath of a flower? Oh, happy thought! Let me hold it fast. Alas, it has vanished, transient as the wafted odor itself. That sublime moment when the glory of paradise will break through the night cannot be far now. It is coming, coming. I shall behold her again, and though it be a pang of 10,000 sorrows, I care not. I shall see her in heavenly beauty. But oh, the darkness that will follow! Yet come what may, her picture will not quit me. I see it, shall always see it, radiant in bliss, though I be in the depths of hell. Can it be utter damnation if God leaves me that much of communion with one of his blessed saints? I know, I feel that she is thinking of me as I think of her, loving me, though it might be the love of a sister. What shall I say? Dare I say it? Could God be a father if the sister is in heaven, and the brother forever lost in hell? I went to church the other day, not for the first time, but I have refrained from speaking about it hitherto for very shame's sake. Indeed, I would rather have kept away altogether, but one is forced to do a great deal here one would prefer to leave alone. Be it known, then, that hell is not without a church establishment. We have everything, you see, yet nothing, nothing. You will understand, I cannot be speaking of the church in the true meaning of the word. That is why I add establishment. Disestablishment would be as good a term. And of course there is no such thing as a worshipping congregation here, or anything like divine service. I can only say we go to church. Good heavens, what a farce! There are about as many churches here as there are reverend gentlemen, and that is saying a good deal. All false and faithless ecclesiastics, all who, for the sake of a good living or other worldly advantage, have sinned against the gospel. All hirelings wronging the Lord's sheep are gathered here. Now they are eaten up with a burning zeal for the gospel which once they slighted, but that gospel is far from them. They are devoured now with love for the sheep, but there are no sheep to be tended. They build churches upon churches, preaching morning, noon, and night, but never a word of God's passes their lips. If the word of grace were yet within their reach, they and their listeners might be saved. But their stewardship is over, and the mysteries are taken from them. Yet are they driven to preach, for ever seeking the one pearl they so grievously neglected. And so are the people, seeking, I mean, but not finding. Hell is full of professing Christians. This may sound strange, but it is true nevertheless, since all the thousands are here to whom Christianity in life was but an outward thing. a habit, or even a mask, hiding an unconverted heart, all those who, having heard the message of salvation, listened to it complacently, but never strove to make sure of it for themselves, merely playing with God's truth, as it were, falling away in the time of temptation. They are hungering and thirsting now for the word once despised, but it is passed away forever. They know it, for some of them have been at their hopeless endeavor for years and centuries now. But they cannot resist flocking to the would-be churches, listening anxiously to ministers that cannot minister. The churches consequently are full to overflowing, but you always find room, for a spirit, a shade can squeeze in anywhere. There is no need, therefore, to take a pew, or pay for it either, as you do upon earth, where the rich command the best places, be it at the theatre or at the church. That is one advantage we have over you. At an evening party the other day I met a certain Reverend Mr. T. I had nearly given his name, but that is against my principles. Who should he be but an old acquaintance of former years? I remember him well. A fashionable parson of the kind the world approves of. Gentlemanly and easy-going in word and deed. Shaking hands on leaving, he said lightly, "I shall be glad to preach to you if you'll come. I have built a church in Sensuality Square. Queer name, ain't it? Anybody can show you the way. Just at the top of Infirmity Street. I've concocted a grand sermon for next Sunday. You'd better come." What could I do but go? I might as well listen to my old acquaintance as to any other pretender of the cloth. I found the church in the square indicated. I was late, coming in upon the singing, but, ye angels, what singing! Instead of saintly hymns, the most horrible songs I ever heard. The natural utterance of the people's own thoughts. The congregation was exceedingly fashionable, of irreproachable attitude, but old men, apparently crowned with honor. Young women, wearing innocence as a garment, joined in that shameless performance. Parents encouraged their children, husbands their wives, unabashed. Alas, and no sooner had I entered than I was no better than the rest. Having come to sing praises, my evil thoughts bubbled over, and I desecrated good intentions with ribald song. It ceased. The parson appeared in his pulpit with an assumption of sanctity quite edifying, but for a moment only. Then his beautiful expression gave way to a deplorable grin. It was with difficulty, apparently, that he reined in his feelings, and looked serious and sanctimonious again as he began. "My worshipping friends," a proper beginning, no doubt, and I am sure he meant his very best. Proceeding vigorously for quite half an hour, I should say, opening and shutting his mouth with the most frightful grimaces, though never a word came forth. He seemed to be aware of it and made desperate efforts at eloquence. Presently he began again. "My worshipping friends," and now he appeared to be in high water, dashing and splashing and floundering along, quite drenching the congregation with his fluency. But never a thought he gave them, and the most shallow of his listeners resented it presently. He was just winding up his rhetoric when there was an outburst of laughter. He stopped short, open-mouthed, and, like a poodle that had had a duckling, shamefacedly slunk down his pulpit stair. I could tell more, but let me cast a veil over it. I left the place heavy-hearted. Is there anything worse than to pretend to be living, being dead? Dead! End of Letter 18.